your mom at 78 years old, having been thrown 50 feet in the air, having been hit by a car that was coming 40 miles an hour, right? And she was alive and she was hooked up to all of these machines. She was broken like Humpty Dumpty.
There really wasn't any part of my mom's body that wasn't damaged from a connective tissue, ligament, tendon, bone, veins, organs.
And you had nothing to go on but faith, Carmen, right? So how did you handle that?
I knew it was out of my control. It was completely out of my control. So I could choose to panic and be frantic and chaotic internally, or I could choose to dial into what I know in my own self in my life is that God has got every single bit of this. And as a person who has always used control in the past to control my environment to make sure I'm okay, this was the biggest letting go experience of my life.
There are episodes that I plan, and then there are episodes that just plan themselves. This is one of the episodes that planned itself the moment that I received a phone call from one of my best friends, Carmen Hunter, who has been on this podcast 3 times prior to this episode. And it's been a episode that's been waiting to be aired since April 4th, the day that her mom transitioned from this earth. March 6th was the day that I got a call from Carmen that her mom had been hit at her mailbox by a car coming 40 miles an hour, and she was thrown 50 feet in the air. I had gone down to Chattanooga, Tennessee, a week prior to her mom's passing, not knowing that I was going to be present for the last 7 days of her mother's life on this earthly plane. I went as a friend, as a soul sister, to go support my friend, to be there, to do anything that she needed me to do, and to mostly be present to the pain and the trial that she was walking through so that I could simply witness her and love her. Any of you who've ever supported someone through a tragedy, through a trial, through the death of a loved one, knows the energy that I was showing up for. What unfolded from March 6th to April 4th truly was one of the most devastating and sacred and ultimately the most luminous things that I have ever had the privilege of witnessing up close. Today's conversation on the podcast is a conversation about love that transcends all time and space, about faith that deepens when all the things that we have known to be true and solid in our life and that we have feared ever leaving are ripped away from us. It's a conversation about the really hard, seemingly impossible decisions that we face when we stand at the threshold with someone that we love. And ultimately, it's about what it means to know in your bones and in your soul that death is not the end. Carmen is joining me here on this podcast today to share the story of her mom's tragic accident on March 6th, 2026, and all that unfolded up until this moment in time as she is walking through grief, the very real experience of grief, of losing someone you love so dearly on the other side. If you have been a podcast listener for a while, you may have heard me share her mom's story back in March on an episode that I recorded on acceptance versus resistance. So I will actually drop that here in the show notes. But without further ado, we're going to dive into the conversation. This is going to be an extra long one, so it might be one that you listen to in 2 parts, but we're going to just let it unfold as the story wants to be told. So welcome back to the podcast, Carmen. Welcome back to the show, Carmen. I know this one is heavier than any of the other episodes we've done together. Not one that you and I ever expected to be doing.
True.
And here we are.
Yeah. Who would have thought it could be harder than betrayal and divorce and abandonment and
Mhm.
losing your
Mhm.
family and all the things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And you and I had scheduled this 2 times prior to do the interview, the recording, have you tell the story. And this is a big story. It's a story filled with a lot. And it just wasn't time. And today it's time. It's time. So bring us back. I want to really have my listeners get a feel for who your mom was prior to March 6th. So tell us a little bit about Doreen Peterson. Tell us about her, your mom, her beautiful heart.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Hmm.
can I show you this just to put some context?
Sure. Yeah.
Here she was. For
Okay.
anybody that watches, that's my mom
Mm,
and me.
mm,
And that was a radio show my sweet little mom at 75 years old got asked to be on and took the chance to
mm,
just go. Never done a radio show in her life. Never done anything like that in her life. And she was just a fearless person that genuinely and authentically showed up in everything that she did in her life. She was 78 years old and she was working as a hostess at PF Chang's, and she had a full roster of pet sitting jobs that she had a waiting list of people waiting for her to come and take care of their pets.
mm,
She was reinventing herself before this happened. After a very long marriage, 56 years, to my dad, they remained very, very close friends. And, it was hard for both of them, but the decision had to be made. And she went out to reinvent her life after getting married at 16 years old, met my dad when she was 13. And so I believe that who my mom was before the accident happened was a woman that was on a mission to discover who she was 70 or however many years before, 63 years before, because that's when she met my dad, because that's who she identified with, this person that was always either a wife or a mother, or even when she was young taking care of her siblings. She had never really had a life of her own, so to speak, an identity of her own. So coming out of codependency and people pleasing and taking care of everyone but herself, she became like this little spitfire. She would wear these crazy patterned pants. She was always the brightest star in the room. She was grabbing every opportunity to do different things. She was just probably the brightest light in the sky. Every single person that ever met my mom said she was the most loving, kindest, friendliest, most beautiful soul and the brightest light they'd met. It was, just, I don't know any other way to explain her except to say that again, she was a bright light. She was, yeah, yeah. And she was my best friend. So more than anything, she was my best friend. She was
yeah.
my soul person. She was everything to
Mhm.
me. Yeah. Yeah. So, grandmother of how many does she have? I always forget. She got five
I've.
grandchildren, five grandchildren. She was sneaky. So she was always the one that was helping my son in the background try to get out of trouble. She
Mm,
was the one who showed up at every game for the grandkids, who filled the refrigerator when my sister and her husband went through divorce. She was everything. And people say, "What was your mom like?" I'm like, she was my everything. And I don't know any other real way to explain it. There's no other clearer way to explain it
mm,
besides my son, of course. So
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Your
She was
mom was,
brilliant.
she was pure love.
Pure love. Yeah.
And in
Yeah.
those last few years of her life, she really took a stand to loving herself
Yes.
in a bolder, more radical way and stepping into a space where she could get to know herself. And she was so proud of the life that she was living in the little
Mhm.
house that she had rented.
Yes, yes.
Hmm.
Yeah, and let's just say this too. My mom was a freedom fighter. She and I would stand on the corners with signs in 2020 and 2021 when all this craziness was going on. She was fighting for what was right. The radio show she was on was all about freedom, health freedom, religious freedom. And so it really was aligned with her new direction in life of trying to find freedom for herself, but also standing up for freedom for others as well. She was an animal lover. My gosh, that woman, she taught me how to love animals. She was just, I don't know. She was a full circle human being in every way. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Very, very, very beautiful person in just so many ways. I was really blessed to meet her in person a
Hmm.
month before this accident, and I could feel that coming off of her.
Yes, she
Just
had to have her lipstick on and her
little,
makeup done before she could
yeah.
let you meet her.
Yes, yes, red lipstick. Your mom loved her red lipstick, and
Yes, she did.
we found out how much after her
We did.
accident, and there were hundreds of red lipsticks in her house. Oh my goodness. So, Carmen, bring us back to March 6th. I know it was a Friday, and you and I were actually in the middle of texting, which is not a surprise because we do that all day,
Yeah.
every day anyway, and you got a phone call.
Yeah, actually, I got a phone call and I wasn't in a position to answer it because there was a lot of noise going on. And so I texted, it was from my dad, and I texted him and I said, which is common for us. If we can't talk, we quickly send back, is everything okay? Can I give you a call back in a little while or later? And he said, call me back as soon as possible. Your mom's been in a terrible accident. And, death is filled with all kinds of emotions and feelings. And one of the things that I've experienced post-mortem is you gotta add a little humor into the stories that you tell around these kinds of things. Otherwise, it's just so heavy. And the first thing that went through my head, honestly, was, well, her bad driving done got her in some capacity. Because that woman, everybody in our family said, we are never going to ride with grandma. Okay. She was a very distracted driver. To me,
Mm-hmm.
always just laughing and singing. I'm like, huh. And so I immediately thought, she's had a car accident. So I picked up my phone, called my dad. I was shaking internally. My boyfriend and his son were out with a boom up cutting trees, of all things. And I remember my dad saying, your mom was hit by a car. And I said, I'm sorry, hit by a car? What do you mean? And he said, she was standing outside her mailbox and she was hit by a car. And I ran to the door, I opened it up, and I started screaming for Andy to come down, my partner, and to turn off the boom and come down. And when I sat back down, all I remembered is him rattling off all of a list of injuries, immediately rattling off a list of injuries. And I didn't know if she was alive or dead, as he was telling me. These are the things that had happened. So I remember just interrupting him quickly because I'm a person that goes right to business. Just give me the details. And I said, where is she? Give me the phone number. He gave me the number. I called. I immediately got a trauma surgeon on the line. Immediately, like the hospital was amazing. And she started telling me what was going on and going through the list of things that were wrong, but then wanted to get the other surgeon to call me because there was more that she could not tell me. So I quickly, I'd been out in the garden mowing, I was dirty. I knew I was going to have to leave. I jumped in the shower immediately. Another surgeon calls. She said that my mom was on 26 bags of blood. At that time, they were on their 26th bag of blood. That she immediately started asking me what her medical, things were, what, any existing medical conditions. I said, she's a clotter. She's on blood thinning medication. This is a very important thing to understand when a person shows up unconscious, that blood thinning that's the biggest problem that you look for, right? And then she started to tell me all of the injuries. And I'm not going to list them now because I know there's going to be a point where we'll have a complete list. But at the time, it was so extensive. All I could do was say, is she going to make it? And she said, we do not know. You need to come. So I packed as many things as I could in a bag. I got into my car. Because I couldn't bring my boyfriend with me at the time, there was too much going on. I left my dog, I left my life, and I got in the car. And I think I called you first, or my friend Jackie, and stayed on the phone. I needed to be grounded in a way that I was going to be okay for the 2-hour drive to the hospital.
Yeah. You did. You
Yep.
called.
Yep. And
it was raining.
Yep. It was, it just started raining. I think I'd asked you to please just stay on the phone with me so that I could stay grounded. I don't remember.
You did. You did. You said, please stay with me. I need you to stay with me so that I can get to the hospital. And there's something else that you said to me. You said, Jen, I don't want to overthink this. I don't want to talk about it, but I just need you to witness me. I feel peace. And then,
See, I don't remember anything except saying I feel a peace coming over me. So yeah, I made a couple of more phone calls. I know I remember having to pull over just to get my bearings when I was on the phone with another friend. I made some phone calls to make sure that everything was being taken care of from a distance. I know that I called my son immediately after I hung up with the surgeon, and I said, go over to your grandpa's house immediately. I want to make sure my dad is okay. So even though had been divorced, anyway. And then I said, and then I need you to go pick up your cousins, and I need you all to get to the hospital immediately. And so my son, 21 years old, went ahead and called everybody, made arrangements, got everyone down to the hospital, called me when he got there, told me the directions. He was just so brilliant, kept me kind of grounded on some of that as well. And I got to the hospital, and I remember thinking, how strange. This is where had my eye appointment. I know where I am, like so randomly. And got into the TICU, which was no easy feat after hours because they don't allow people back. But she was in such critical condition that the surgeon admitted me in, and I remember walking into the room and no one else was there but me. Everyone else had gone home because they were making visitors leave, and thinking to myself, well, we have a job to do here, don't we? I dropped everything in a chair and I walked over, and all I did was start talking to my mom. She was completely unconscious. She was intubated. She had all four limbs were broken, bruises, abrasions everywhere, swelling, everything, everything. And I just remember saying to her that I was there. I am here. I have everything is in order, Mom. We are taking care of everything for you. And I just remember thinking how important that would be to me if I woke up or something in a place where I didn't know where I was, that I would want to know that I was safe where I was, if that makes sense. So I automatically started reassuring my mom, you are safe. You are in the hospital. You have a team of people taking care of you. I am here. You are not alone. Like all of the things that I would want somebody's subconscious mind to start programming into their mind to help them to feel safe, because that's the first order of business when it comes to healing, you know?
Mm.
So I was only there for a short period of time, met all of the surgeons that night, got the list of damages, signed a lot of forms for permission to do a lot of different surgeries just in case something happened in the night where I wasn't there. And they made me go home because of the shock that I was in. They wanted me somewhere with someone so I could get rest and be back the next morning. They knew what was ahead of us. So I left and I went to my dad's house that night. I stayed on the phone with him when I went, and my son and my boyfriend. And the next morning started the marathon, which is what I call it, because it certainly wasn't a sprint.
Hmm.
It was a
It
marathon.
was it was a marathon. Yeah, it was a month. And share with us how you were feeling. How were you approaching this? You're looking at your mom at 78 years old, having been thrown 50 feet in the air, having been hit by a car that was coming 40 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Right. And she was alive and she was hooked up to all of these machines. She was broken like Humpty Dumpty. And you had nothing to go on but faith, Carmen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. So
Yeah.
how did you handle that?
Well, I think the piece that came over me when I was on the phone with you the night before was that I knew it
Mm-hmm.
was out of my control. It was completely out of my control. So I could choose to panic and be frantic and chaotic internally, or I could choose to dial into what I know in my own self, in my life, is that God has got every single bit of this. He's got me, he's got her, he's got the doctors, the nurses. He is in charge. This is out of my control. And as a person who has always used control in the past to control my environment to make sure I'm
Mm-hmm.
okay,
Mm-hmm.
this was the biggest letting go experience of my life. And so I grabbed onto the endless amounts of letting go that I've done in my life with betrayal and divorce and all of the things, financial ruin, la. And I said, take it, take it all. I literally said, take it all. Just guide me in every place that I need to be so that I can show up the best way that I can, and that I can advocate for my mom.
Mm.
So I think it's important to, if we can we back up and tell what happened a little bit, like about what happened? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
Please.
obviously, there was an officer showed up and all of the things. So through a series of calling the officer that was on site, talking to the neighbor next door, all of this stuff, the story unfolded, and I now have the facts of what happened, which was that my mother had pulled into her garage. Even her car door was still open, her purse and everything was in her seat, and she had walked to her mailbox. Now, her mailbox wasn't on the road. Her mailbox was on the inside of her driveway. So imagine a U-shaped driveway and the mailbox being off the road inside the driveway. Okay. So she wasn't standing on a busy road, but it was a busy road, is Michigan Avenue in Cleveland, a very busy road, which unsettled me when I moved her in. And the first thing I thought was, she's got to get her mail on this road. Believe it or not, that's the first thing that went through my mind when I pulled into that driveway back in November of last year. So what happened was a vehicle going 40 miles an hour. The woman who lost consciousness had a medical incident, and we still are not aware of what it was. She went off the road, went through a telephone pole and a tree onto the sidewalk, and hit my mom head on, going 40 miles an hour with no braking, no swerving whatsoever. My mom was airborne, and that's what it says on the police report. Airborne 50 feet and dropped into her front yard on the grass. The car went by her, hit the fence of the house next door, hit the house and the air conditioning unit next door, bounced off the house and back into the fence. Now, if that fence had not been there, and your mind goes in 1,000 different places, the car would have just run right over her again. So first miracle. First miracle is that the car did not go back through the fence and run her over in her front yard. Second miracle that occurred was that the ambulance was there instantly. Instantly. I mean, to pick her up and take her to a life flight pad, which was just minutes away. And one of the people was on that helicopter that took my mom to the hospital was the daughter of a cousin of ours from Minnesota, like a friend of a cousin. So crazy little chain of events going on there anyway. But so we know that the woman had a medical incident. We don't know what it was. We know that she was not conscious when she hit. She was unconscious when they found her. But my mom was conscious when one of the witnesses walked up to her and she was saying, "Help me." And then she lost consciousness. Every part of her body was broken. She was trying to move her limbs. We were told that. And the extent of the damage that we received was she had a compound fracture of the femur in the right leg. For anybody who doesn't know, compound fractures means that the bone is sticking out of the body. Compound fracture of the elbow on the right arm, a completely shattered left wrist, a broken tibia on the left leg, 2 punctured veins in the abdomen, which poured all of that blood into her belly. A small section of her colon had to be resected, which put her on an ostomy bag, which we were thrilled to know that could be reversible if she had survived. She had a bruised pancreas, bruised liver, damaged kidneys, hematomas all over her spine, but no spinal damage, no paralysis of the spine. She had a hematoma on the brain that shrunk itself, so no brain damage at all. None.
That's another one of the miracles.
I mean, she was fully there when she finally woke up. Strained ligaments in her neck, hematomas all over, everywhere in her body, abrasions. A miracle she didn't lose her eye, because the cut above her eye didn't even break the bone of her eye. The list of things is endless. By the time she actually did pass away, damage had continued, right? Fistulas and infections, pneumonia, lung damage, all of the things. There really wasn't any part of my mom's body that wasn't damaged from a connective tissue, ligament, tendon, bone, veins, organs, place. And it's important to say all of that because my mother had complete control and she was completely there in her mind. No brain damage and no spinal cord damage that would be permanent was what we hung our hats on. We thought, you know what? That woman has been through so much. She can surely heal all of these things. At least we know that her brain and her spinal cord are intact. So that was a lot. Those 2 things right there were miracles that we hung our hats on for the entire month till the time came. Yeah. 78 years old. And the funny thing was, when they got her in, they were like, 65-year-old woman. I'm like, she would love to hear that. She would love to hear that.
She would.
Yeah, she would. But every surgeon on the team, and we had a surgeon from every team, as you can imagine, nephrology, endocrinology, all of them, neurology, everything. They said there is no reason why this woman should have survived this accident. Nobody there said, "Oh, well, this happens." It doesn't happen. Doesn't happen. But it did. She did. She survived.
But it did.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it did, because there were miracles to be witnessed and experienced within the entire experience. Your mom was teaching people things
Yes,
every
she was.
moment that she was alive in the TICU 3.
Yeah.
And a lot of things were being witnessed in the TICU 3, including the love between the 2 of you and the love that you exhibited for your mother.
Yeah. I got my tissues here just in case.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was that. Also, though, the thing is, one of the things that I forgot to mention is how tenacious and resilient and tough my mom was before March 6th. And the fact that she gave me all of those qualities in my own life.
Yeah.
So when I got there and I understood, like, okay, she's on all of these machines. I've never seen so many machines. And the doctor said, we've never had so many machines in one room.
Yeah.
I said, okay, we can do this. And I tapped into that. I tapped into that tenaciousness, that resiliency, that we're going to get through this. We're going to do this. I'm going to advocate. And Mama, we're going to do this. And I just kept telling her. So We also need to like say ahead of time that she was intubated for 23 days. They don't even like to intubate for 48 hours. She ended up getting a trach. We were so excited because we
Mm.
thought we'd be able to talk to her, but she was intubated for 23 days. She was on dialysis. She was on, breathing machine. She was on heart machine. She was on all the machines you need just as
Uh-huh.
you generally go to the hospital.
Huh.
So every machine was continuing to support her, but she was able to manage her heart, her breathing, and her heart. She did that on her own, and her blood pressure.
Mm.
So you could literally watch as she became into consciousness. And when we were able to take the medicine down, and I would say, Mama, I would instruct her, you know how to do this, bring that blood pressure down. And you could watch the machines while she was working on that, right? So she was in control of those parts of her body.
Mm-hmm.
Even though she needed the support, it was unbelievable to witness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. She fought. She definitely fought to live in her physical state of being. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to share a little bit of what I witnessed in you and then also in your mom. I had recorded a podcast episode shortly after, maybe it was like a week or two after the accident, and I'll link it here in the show notes. But I had recorded what I was witnessing, and the whole podcast episode is on acceptance versus resistance. And the first few days, you were in a state of resistance. How could you not be? It was, this can't be happening. This cannot be happening. My mother cannot be going through this. She cannot die. And that had you for a very short period of time in what you and I always describe as the suffering. So your suffering was heightened beyond the reality of what you were facing, because for a hot minute there, you were in that state of resistance. And then all of a sudden, Carmen, you dropped into acceptance. You just dropped the resistance. It was, this is what we're doing. I am not going to think about what day it is. I'm not going to think about my dog back home who is really anxious and I never leave. And now I'm just completely walking away. I'm not going to think about my business I'm stepping away from. I'm thinking about nothing but where I am in this very present moment. And you stepped into really embodying the peace that you had a little glimpse of that first night that your mom got hit. It was palpable. I could see it on you. And I want to share this because this is wild and almost unexplainable. So it was the second night after your mom's accident. It was a Saturday evening, and I was praying for her, and I dropped into a meditative state. And when I was in this meditative prayer type state, what I was really doing was this heart, like a heart coherence, so that I was connecting with her, connecting with the energy, going into the fields, dropping out of my own mind, my own body. And the wildest thing happened. I connected with her soul to soul, and I had a very brief conversation, and I could feel her. I could feel her energy. At that moment, I could feel that she was completely embodied in love, in divine love, the infinite unconditional love. That's where she was. You and I both believe, and through other people confirming this, that your mom was most likely having an NDE, and through it, and not completely in her body. She was above her body for those first maybe 24 to 48 hours because there was just so much shock and trauma. We never got to hear that part of her story, but I was able to connect with her, and I heard she thanked me for being your friend and for being the sister that you never had.
Mhm.
And then she said, keep reminding Carmen how strong she is, and remind her that she is ready for this process. And that carried with me throughout that whole month of being your friend, supporting you through this catastrophic event where your whole life is turned upside down. Your mom, who you love more than anyone in this whole world outside of your son, was laying there. And one of the things that I worked on inside of me and God, was dropping out of any detail. None of the details of what this process means were mine to know. Oh, I just threw balloons. None of them were mine to know. And So when I told you that I was going to go visit with you, I said, I'm going to come. I had plans anyway to go to Tennessee to look at some property, and it just all worked out. I mean, the timing of when I arrived, that was again divinely orchestrated because I arrived there on a Sunday. And I was there for the last 7 days of her life, but we didn't know it was going to be the last 7 days of her life.
No. Mm-mm.
No,
Mm-mm.
not at all. And I had witnessed you up into that moment. I mean, walk through every day was something different. Every single day was emergency or a new celebration too. Like when
Mhm.
they were able to put the tracheotomy in and you were able to have that first conversation with your mom.
Yeah. Well, she
Yeah.
couldn't talk. We have to remember she
Well,
never did
yeah,
speak,
but
and it was so
mouthing.
hard to read her lips, but I was able to kiss her lips. I was able to put lip balm on her. I
Mm,
was able to watch her. She made kiss faces at me. Like we were able to
mm,
have that. Yeah. So no
mhm,
words, but it was totally different than having the tube in her throat. Yeah. I mean,
mm,
in her mouth. Yeah. Yeah.
mhm,
Yeah.
mhm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, there were a lot of beautiful moments. There were a lot of miraculous moments throughout that month, and there were things that were happening that were miracles upon miracles.
Yeah. Oh, I'll share one
Yeah,
just so
share,
like,
please.
so one of them, so outside of the accident, I mean, it's important to note that because my parents were divorced, I was her power of attorney and her decision maker, and I was the one that was on the list for the DNR should we ever have to make the decision, which meant that I was also in charge of all of her affairs outside of medical. So that meant going out to her house, getting her phone, paying her rent, finding all of her logins for everything, for her bills, for her lights, electricity, like all of the personal things were also on the list of to do and take care of. So one of the things that I was struggling with I didn't have the POA papers printed so that the credit cards or the banks could let me have access to her stuff. And I just remember one day, it was a 10-hour surgery day where I was at the hospital for 10 hours and I was just, I've got to get to the bank. I've got to do this. I look up and there's the very bank inside the hospital that I was looking to try to find a location for to go in and close down an account or put a pause on. And I was like, thank God, like right there, the very bank. So I went in and I was able to take care of one of the things that was weighing on me the most in that moment. So, that's just one. And I know it may sound small, but when you don't have time and you're afraid to leave a hospital because the doctor might call to have something handed to you like that, here you go.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah, another blessing was that one of the people on the floor was a friend of my mom and dad's, like a friend of the family. So we had a nurse on the floor that we could kind of lean on here and there.
Mm,
And these are every little thing matters when you're
mm,
grabbing at something that you can, put some hope into, so to speak, right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Carmen, share with us how you were surviving this.
Oh, I mean, right now sitting here, I feel like that's literally the only word there was for it because it certainly was not. I was on adrenaline. I was on, all of, cortisol, adrenaline, everything was just pumping constantly. And I'm the kind of person that does really, really well in emergencies. So like if someone's choking, I'm the one that goes, hold on, please. We need to do this, this, and this, right? So I was in that mode a lot because of all of the phone calls, all of the traumas, all of the things that were coming up. It was almost as if God kept me in a state of don't go into the emotion, stay here on the decision making spot. We need you here. So I stayed there in survival mode. I wasn't really allowed to fall apart until I would get home at night and that's when I would allow myself to fall completely apart. And so there is a duality in this kind of thing where you have to maintain, you got to take care of business, but you have to be able to do the other side too, and that means fall apart. You have to be able to do that. Otherwise, I mean, I truly believe that being able to be a person that cries and screams and yells and gets pissed and says fuck a lot and just loses her mind when she's overwhelmed helped me survive this, honestly. I really do. And my dad, like to be able to have him, I would stay at his house. So I was going between my son's apartment when he wasn't there, my dad's house, Airbnb with you, and then ultimately at my mom's and another place to sleep. I was living out of bags and suitcases. Whenever I would be able to end the night by going to my dad's house, he would have dinner cooked for me and we all eat the same grass-fed organic, like, to have a healthy meal, to have him to just sit there and take all of my emotion without rising in emotion to meet me at there was huge for me. So for you husbands and men and dad out there, dads and boyfriends and partners, for us women, when we rise in emotion,
Mhm.
my dad was a perfect example of what it looked like to hold steady ground, to allow me to lose my mind, honestly. And he held the space for me beautifully, and it opened
Yeah.
the door to a relationship with my dad
Mm.
that I have wanted my entire life. All of my life at 55 years old,
Mm.
I got the connection with him that I've looked for all of my life. So another miracle, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Absolutely another miracle.
Another miracle, because I've never been daddy's little girl. I've always been mom's best friend, soulmate, partner in crime. Like, we've always been like this. Not that I haven't desired more from my dad, but he wasn't emotionally capable, and I didn't know
Mm.
how to ask for it.
Mm.
So it was almost as if when I would get in these conversations with my dad, I would feel my mom pushing us together. Does that make
Mhm.
sense? I
Yeah.
could feel her like nudging, like, okay, now's the time. To both of you,
Mm.
drop your guard. Here it is. So she was healing us from a hospital bed. Right? Just
Mhm.
like my mom to do that, right? Healing us
Mhm.
from a hospital bed. So again, I'm a person that always has to see it's not just this tragedy. There's something else here. So I was always looking for those miracles. So when you ask how did I survive? I looked for the miracles. I looked for the hope. I grabbed the faith. I grabbed everyone, as you know. I grabbed you.
Mm.
Help me. I was not afraid to ask for help in every way possible. I asked for help. And I would say the large portion of the people in my family and my friends, they rose to the challenge of what do we do with this woman who is crying and screaming and
Yeah.
losing her mind,
Mhm.
but also very much in control and handling things,
Yes.
very much in
Yes.
love and faith in God, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And that's the part that being someone who was helping you through this, for me, I had faith in the faith that you have. And I knew that none of this was for me to take away from you. I couldn't take it away from you. I know sometimes when people are witnessing another going through their own struggle and pain and suffering, there can be this rescuing type of a energy where you want to take it away. You want to take it away because you're uncomfortable with their pain,
Yeah.
and their pain is theirs. We can't take it away at all. And so I know for me there was this incredible sense of peace in your faith, confidence in God that's in you, the same God that's in me is the same God that's in you. And this is happening for you. I didn't know any of the details of that, but I was really confident that our God had you, had the situation, had your mom. So that helped me to just be present, because when you're going through something like you were going through, there's nothing anyone can do. People can bring you a coffee, they can make you a meal, they can, like, for you, even just having someone to hold space so you could lose your shit and cry and scream. But again, do it in a safe way where you don't have to worry about, like, you didn't have to worry about my emotions if you got really ugly and raw. You didn't have to go turn around and try and regulate me because I was feeling uncomfortable and trying to do something about it.
Anyway, like
Mm-mm.
let's let everybody needs to know Carmen Hunter is not a person that is going to be told what to do.
No,
In regular
no,
life, right? In
no,
regular
yes,
life.
yes.
But in this situation, and I had just have to throw all of like the kudos and props to you because you had never seen me like that before.
No,
Now
how could
you
I?
oh no. You've been on the other end of my calls, like with where I'm pissed at my boyfriend or my son's out of control or something like that. But the fullness of my emotions and what I was experiencing was so intense and so raw and real that I was like actually saying to you, I needed you to go tell Andy to don't
Yeah,
touch me. I
yeah.
don't want to be soothed. Don't try to fix anything. And I remember at the hospital a few times where I asked you to please tell people not to touch me because I could only handle you or even Maddie, my niece, touching me. Like I needed the feminine, loving energy. So I was very clear in asking for what I needed. And you were just brilliant at honoring it. Even when I was in the bathtub with a glass of wine
Mhm,
and naked and crying and screaming, and you put your hand on my arm, I'll never forget that
mhm.
moment because I'm tucked into a little ball and I'm losing my fucking mind. and I felt your hand on my arm. And when I would come to, after those waves of grief and anger were rolling through me, I would feel your hand on my arm. I'm like, okay, there she is. There it is. There it is. Oh,
Mhm.
okay, okay. And that wasn't just the only moment that night. You know, another one came and you just face to face held my hands and my whole body was letting go of so much, and you just let me be. Nothing could have fixed anything in those moments except allowing me to
No.
just be.
No, no,
Yeah.
exactly that. It's just allowing you to be. There's a beautiful song by Krista Wells called Come Close Now. And that song was actually written, she wrote it after hearing a story about a man who lost his daughter. And when she asked him, well, how did that feel for you? What was that experience like? And she said, the experience of losing my child felt like I was in a burning building and I was tied to a chair on the top floor and I couldn't get out. So if you go and you look up the song and you listen to the lyrics, it's really for people who are helping other people go through whatever they're going through. You can't take it away. And you can come into my fire and you can sit next to me, pull up a chair, you can sing with me, you can bring me a glass of water, but you can't take this fire away, right? It's not yours to take away. And for me, especially when I got there, when I got to Tennessee on that Sunday to
Exhausted, by the
Chattanooga,
way. You were
I was
exhausted.
exhausted. We had been traveling, and I get there, and we go to the hospital, and that evening, and I went into the TICU to see your mama, and I went over to her, and I put my forehead up against hers, and yeah. Yeah. Her and I had a conversation, and we had a conversation without words. And these are just more of the things that you can't make up. You experience, if you're blessed enough to experience things like this in your life, to really experience that you can communicate soul to soul without words. I think having lost someone that I loved very, very dearly just 3 years prior, Molly, I knew that relationship with the soul was eternal, that it continues on even after the physical body wasn't there. So when I went over to your mom, her and I were able to like really feel into one another's energy and communicate, and without even words, because I can't quite even put words to what was exchanged between us, but I was so confident in what was exchanged between us in that moment. And it's all okay. This is all okay. And Carmen is okay. And we locked eyes for a very long time because it definitely,
remember.
you were like, whoa, she has not done that with anybody. And then at the end, she mouthed, thank you. And the thank you in that moment I knew was a thank you, again, not for the details of what I knew was going to unfold. I had no idea that I was there for the last 7 days of her life, that I was going to be there for you and with you as you let your mother go. I didn't know that, but I knew that there was a divine assignment for me. And that divine assignment was be present, Jen. Be present like you've never been present before. And trust me, Jen, like you've never trusted me before. You don't have to get in your head and think, what do I do for Carmen? How do I help Carmen? Carmen's freaking out. Carmen is in resistance. Whatever it is, shit, Carmen's going to have to let go of her mother. I didn't think about any of it. It never crossed my mind because I was so very present. And your mom and I had this agreement. And that agreement was that I was going to trust and be really present. And I was there for her, but I was there for her daughter. And I was able to give her that commitment that I was there for you in that moment and in the days that followed and in all the details that I didn't know were going to unfold. I believe her soul did know. And in the days following and here and right now and what you and I are doing and, on and on for eternity. But it was powerful. And so anyone listening who's listening to the story, even who maybe is helping another person walk through trial, walk through death, walk through letting go of someone that they love. If you can tap in yourself to source, to God, listening to the spirit, getting out of your own mind, you don't need to think about anything and you just follow. I knew every moment of that week I knew when to go over to you and put my hand on your back. I knew when to step back. I knew when to get you a drink. I knew when to sit, when to stand. It was as if I took a complete break, a complete vacation from my own mind. It was really beautiful. It was a
Yeah.
very, very, very beautiful experience. So, all right. So I was there in Tennessee. We rented an Airbnb.
Right down the street.
Yeah, right down the street. So every minute that we weren't at the hospital, I had raised some money from very loving people who wanted to support you and your family through this. And I came on this mission to cook as much food and make as many freezer meals as I possibly could. You had asked me to please make sure I can make them for your mama, because when she comes out of this, you didn't want her eating hospital food. So I made all kinds of food. And I barely remember even doing it because it was just this background thing to do. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. In between going back and forth from the hospital. And one of the things too, that's also kind of important is, there are visiting hours at hospitals, and the trauma ICU it's not like a regular hospital. Like you can go in from 9 to 12 and you can go in from 4 to 8.
Yeah.
I was there so I was at such odd hours. I was blessed again to have people on staff that would allow me to stay past or to come a little early or whatever it was. But if in fairness of everyone else, they didn't let people do that because they didn't want a bunch of families going to the, and all of that. So we had a couple of hours in between visits where, we would run errands, or I was trying to take care of things for my mom, or I was trying to, work with a client that I had scheduled or whatever. But it was constant, nonstop running.
Yes.
It was nonstop running. And here's the other thing too, that I think is really important to note is I have a sister, and you said, the sister I never had. You are the sister I never had, because the sister that I have was uninvolved. So one important thing I think that's going to be really valuable for families to understand is, number one, you never know. You're not promised tomorrow. You never know what can happen to your parents. If you have siblings, put a plan in place that everyone agrees to share the responsibilities and the care and all of the things that go on around it, because I didn't get that. So while all of that was going on with the hospital, I was desperately trying to make arrangements for other things. Like we were just talking about, I was told towards the end she was going to be put into a rehab facility. So being able to transport her with the lung machine and these machines to get her body moving again after all the surgeries, that was the plan. That's important for people to know. That was the plan, right? So I was in my mind thinking, we're going to do this, because we had so many celebrations. Like she would come out of a surgery and the doctors could not believe it. They're like, I can't believe it, but she did brilliantly. We had no blood, no bleeding, no this, no this. So by the time we actually got close to that last week where you were there, we started to have a lot more things starting to kick in and happen, where calls were coming at 12 o'clock at night, or, emergencies were happening at different times. Blood was having to be given. Would I give permission? Certain things would be found, like fistulas or something like that. They would need to do more surgeries on. So, carrying the load of everything is very difficult for one person. And to be able to keep any of that together, again, like I know that I've said thank you to you 1,000 ways, and that's still not enough. But the way that you came in and just picked up all of the pieces that I could not manage on my own, just like I said, can you please go get the nurse? She's weeping out of her skin. Can you please go do this? Can you please tell this? It is absolutely imperative that we have someone, for the person that's advocating for the person that they love, that you have someone there that can see the pieces that you can't see, that can fill the spaces that you can't fill on your own. Because by the time that week ended, and we were at, I don't even know how many surgeries we ended up with. 10? It was like 9 or 10 surgeries.
Yeah.
They were not small. One surgery alone was over 5.5 hours long. We ended up with, her medical report was 4,000 pages, and her insurance report was 51 pages. Now, anybody that hears, I can hear a lot of gasping out there in the world when they hear this. 4,000 pages was explaining everything that happened from the time she got, from the time that the paramedics came to the time that she died. The enormity of what happened is.
I was. It was surreal. It was surreal. And you had created an atmosphere for your mom in that TICU that was so peaceful and loving and beautiful. The doctors and nurses all commented on the love that they witnessed for your mom from you. Her skin was absolutely glowing. You were continuously rubbing vitamin E lotion on it.
Everything healed on her face,
Everything
everything.
on her face healed. The
All of her
scar
abrasions,
above
yeah.
it was healed. And it was a couple days before your mom passed. Maybe it was Wednesday. I don't remember. But she was having a day where she was giggling and communicating with us a little bit. And I made a joke that her skin looked better than yours. And she giggled. She loved that. I said, "You look
Yes.
younger than your daughter."
Yes. Of course I of
Uh-huh.
course.
I mean, you're running on nothing, and she's over here laying, getting daily facials,
And her feet rubbed and her
and her
hands rubbed.
feet rubbed, and it smelled like lavender, and you had frequency music playing 24/7, and you just really created this very peaceful healing environment. And you were constantly, Carmen, working with your mother on using her subconscious mind. I stood witness to you getting her to release urine because she wasn't releasing enough urine into her catheter bag. And so you would say, "All right, mama, you could do it. We're going to pee. We're going to pee." And then she would pee. We would watch it. And I'm sharing this a little bit here
Yeah.
too with our listeners, because this is the power of our minds.
Yes.
This wasn't just the power of your mom's mind. She showed us the power of the mind.
Yes.
Her blood pressure would go up a bit, and the machine would start to beep. And the beeping was, of course, very annoying, and they wouldn't rush right in and get it. But we would say to her, "All right, come on, you could do this. Let's lower the blood pressure. Let's get your blood pressure down." And or no, it was get the blood pressure up. That was it. It was going too low, and she needed to get it up. And we're like, "Let's get the blood pressure up. Come on, you can do it. You can do it." And all of a sudden, it would stop, and then we're, "Good job,
Yeah.
mama," and she would smile.
Yeah.
Like her big smile. I'm so proud of myself. So she was doing that with, again, the power of her mind, even in the state that she was in. So,
Yeah. It was the same day, her temperature, we watched it go up, up,
yes.
up, and then I went over and I did a lot of whispering, talking, and connecting. I mean, constantly. I didn't sit down for more than 5 minutes. I don't think the entire month, all together, put together, maybe 5 minutes at a time. But I would go over and I would whisper to her, "You're getting way too hot, Mom. We need to bring your temperature down." So I watched it go from, I think it was 102.9, and she brought it down to 99.
Yeah. Yep.
Just by purely just talking to her and letting her know
Mm-hmm.
that God has this, God knows what
Mm-hmm.
he's doing. He's knitting your bones together, Mama.
Mm.
And I don't remember ever having a single doubt, like a real doubt that we weren't going to get through this, like a doubt. Now, even in and let's go into the conversation that happened with the doctors and the nurses where,
One Friday.
no, the night that we got a call, where the nurses, I called in to check on my mom. So every night before I would go to bed,
Okay. Yep.
just so I could get a few hours of sleep, I would call and check on her. "Do we have any updates?" And do you remember when I left that one night where I wasn't leaving until somebody told me what the plan was to get my mom out of this situation that she
Yep.
was in?
Yep.
And they had a plan. And so I called later that night to see if her temperature had come down, how was she, all of the things. And the nurse was very short with me
Mm-hmm.
and said she's resting comfortably. And I said she is not resting comfortably. And then I reiterated what had happened earlier in the night. I kept copious mental notes. And that's another thing. I remember everything. I remember everything that happened while it was happening. I could remember what happened, what time this thing happened, and then I had to ask for the head nurse, and I got an attitude from the head nurse. And then I demanded to speak to the doctor, and the doctor gave me an attitude. Remember all that? And I was sitting on my bed in the Airbnb. You and my niece Maddie were there supporting me, and I was very calm. And I basically just said, well, you listened to what I said. That explained what was going on with the nurses, that it was absolutely inappropriate for how the way they were handling it, that I needed an update on my mother. And I was told that I have 25 other patients. And I basically said, "I'm sorry for your 25 other patients, but my mother is your patient on this phone call." And then a lot of that is a blur. That part becomes a blur because I remember getting very calm and just very much going, "This is where she was. This is what's going on. This is what I need for you. This is what I'm asking for." And he put me on hold because he was having an attitude with me,
He did have an attitude.
very much.
His ego was
Yes,
running the conversation at first.
yep, yep,
Yeah.
at first. And so I was explaining to the both of you that Dr. Williams at Erlanger Hospital was amazing. And she always handled things with care and love. And she was patient and kind. And I don't know if he heard that or what happened, but when he came back on the line, I mean, a completely different attitude. and basically just told me, and you all heard it on the speaker. Why don't you tell them? Because I can't remember exactly what he said, but something about being a better doctor or.
Yeah, he did. He heard you. But you had said to him, I need you to imagine that this was your mother. And at that moment, he really shifted and he softened and he apologized. And he apologized for making excuses. And he apologized for the way that he was speaking to you. And that was when he said, I have never seen any of our patients get loved the way your mother is loved. We are all rooting for her. We care for her. We care for you. I'm very sorry. And you have made me a better doctor tonight. Thank you for having this conversation with me because you stayed in equanimity. You weren't screaming at him, but you also wouldn't let him get away with the way he was treating you.
Yep.
So
Yep,
when we
that's
think
right.
about serving God and the greatest and highest good of everyone, that includes having hard conversations, right? It would have been so much easier for you after at 11:30 at night when all you want to do is go to bed to say, "Oh, forget it," and just bitch about him. Even file a complaint in the hospital about him, but instead you hung with him and you persisted in a conversation and saying, "No, no, no. This is not okay. How you're speaking is not okay." I mean, your coach self came out, right? Like you're a master coach and you called him higher. You called him higher in the moment. And it was really cool to stand witness to it because what I was standing witness to was him dropping his pride, right? Getting out of ego and stepping into humility. And in that, he did become a better doctor that night. And those are the things that you can't get taught in school. You know, you're taught them through experience. But Carmen, the way that you handled all of the staff and everybody that had any exposure to your mom was amazing because you are a fierce advocate. You always have been. That's just part of who you are. It's your makeup, you know, it's your years and animal rescue and being a freedom fighter. So you're a fierce advocate. So you were a fierce advocate for your mom, but you always did it with respect. And you were also very, very persistent. And it's really easy when you're very, very exhausted and tired and emotional to snap, right? You can get really snappy, and a person could get snappy and mean. They can get really bitchy. They can also give up, and you didn't. And in that, you made everybody there better at what they do. And they witnessed and learned so much through your mom and you being in the TICU for 31 days.
Yeah.
So your mom, I have my own thoughts, beliefs on why your mom hung in there for so long and why she fought. And that your mom is someone who always wanted to help other people. And her biggest goal was to help other people feel loved. And
Yes.
where's that, that love is God's love. So your mom fighting to stay alive was an act of love. It was her greatest act of love as she exited this earthly plane for her family, for you,
Yeah.
for that hospital staff, for your father. It's just, and then that Thursday. So Thursday, every day that I was there in the last 7 days, there was always something. There was just something, phone calls and an emergency procedure and
more blood, more
every
this.
day.
Yeah.
And Thursday was
Well, you got to go to
peaceful.
Wednesday because Wednesday was the good day. No, but Wednesday was the bad day.
No,
Thursday was the good day.
Wednesday was so Wednesday was a bad day, and
Thursday
she had
was the
another
good day.
procedure to drain a blood clot from her back, and then Thursday comes, and this is just a very symbolic for it wasn't lost on me that we're walking through what in the Christian church would call Holy Week, right? So now we're on like what would be Maundy Thursday, right? And so it's just all symbolic in my mind, but so that Thursday, she has a good day. Like it was just a peaceful, good day. She was very, very tired. She had gone through so much the days prior. So she really wasn't waking up or talking.
She was alert that morning. Yeah. You weren't there that morning. Yeah. But she was alert that morning. We had eye contact. We had a mouth-to-mouth conversation. I had developed a method of communicating with her. And it is also, again, it's important to note my mom was in a K-hole for the first couple of weeks. She was on fentanyl, Dilaudid, ketamine, and kept in a K-hole for the anxiety and the amount of damage that she had. Because waking up with that amount of damage, it would have given anybody a panic attack or anxiety. So they kept her in a K-hole. That when she did, we have to kind of back up a little bit more, because the first time she opened her eyes, they called me and said, your mom's eyes are open. I need to come down. I was like, oh my gosh. So I came down immediately, and she looked me in the eye and she said, what happened? So we skipped past that part, but that was early
Mm.
on before you got there, right? And
Mm-hmm.
she had asked me what happened. So it's important because people will then understand how with it she was in her mind. And I said, I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to walk through exactly what happened. I kept all the gore out, of course. You're in a hospital, you were hit
Mm-hmm.
by a car. And it's important for people to know that when people are in trauma like this, they need to know what happened, because reorienting into something like this after they get out of the hospital or after they come out of all of the medication is very hard for them. So to tell them in bits and pieces what happened helps them to reorient into a normal way of being and thinking. Okay. So mom, finally she kind of understood, because the next time, I think it was like probably 4 days later, I said, do you know where you are? And she said, mm-hmm. She nodded her head. And I said, okay, so we're going to establish conversation. When it's yes, mom, give me a hard blink for yes. When there is no yes, you can just blink normally or not at all. And so that was how I started to communicate. Do you know this? Where is this? Are you aware of this? And one of the things that I was very careful of was there was estrangement between her and my sister. Okay. And I wanted to protect my mom's energy so much. I did not want her to feel any negativity in her hospital room, right? And so one of the things that I had said was, are you okay with my sister coming in and seeing you? Are you okay with her being in this room? And she nodded, but also with her eyes closed, like almost a calm, it's fine, like that. And then that was more letting go for me, because that wasn't my decision. It wasn't my choice. I could have absolutely put the walls up and said, you do nothing but make her sad and all of that. But I backed off of that and made sure that I communicated with everyone in our family the entire time about what was going on, and allowed them to make their decisions on how they showed up for my mom. So that's important to note also. And I keep saying it's important, it's all important, but because I had to step out of that for survival purposes,
Mm-hmm.
I had to step out of being the contact for all of the details. It was
Mm-hmm.
exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So fast forward to the final week, where I was no longer constantly sending out details to everyone. People were contacting me to ask me what was going on. And I had said she had a great day today. That was on that Thursday, because the night before, I want to say you were with me, were you not? The
Yep.
night where the whole
Yep.
staff came in. I had called a
Yep.
nephrologist in Washington to get input. I had another nephrologist that was on call and one that was on staff. And I asked them all to come into the room and have a plan for my mom before I would leave, because she was seeping, fluid out of all of these places in her body.
Yeah, she was on dialysis, and they
Intermittent
were
dialysis.
intermittent, so they were giving it to her every other day. So in between, what was essentially happening was she was toxic, and then she was spiking the fever, and then she was oozing fluid out of her skin. So it was a lot. And then we entered into Thursday, and it just felt like it
We
was
turned a
just
corner.
all of a sudden calm. We didn't realize that that was part of, anybody who has stood witness to someone who's left this earth knows that there are phases. There's phases where there's a surge, there's a phase of calm. It could happen over months, it could happen over hours. And, we had no idea until obviously we knew what was happening, that calm was the calm before the storm. And I also believe that she gave you and she gave us a gift, because
Yes.
we left the hospital that night, and you turned to me and said, I have not left this hospital and gone home before dark. Let's go. Let's have a normal night. Let's eat dinner. And we ate dinner.
I had whispered in her ear before we left, Mama, Jen is leaving us tomorrow. She's flying home. No more shenanigans tonight. No more parties in TICU 3. We want no phone calls tonight. And she just gave me a little, her famous looks was when she would do that little face, like the
Yeah.
celebration face where she'd smile and
Mm-hmm.
like a little girl. And then the one where she'd, okay. And then the one where I knew where there was pain. And then the love. She had several different faces that I knew, and I kissed her mouth so many times, and she kissed me so hard and so many times when she was when the tube came out of her throat. And that night she did that little face like okay, and we left,
We did.
and I felt a peace again of like, oh, we get a
Yeah.
night.
Oh, yeah, we did. We sat on the porch and we drank a bottle of wine and we talked and we laughed and we cried. And it was a gift, because I mean, you needed it. You needed a break, and especially with what was coming. And then it was the next day, and I was checked into my flight. I was flying out that afternoon. You and I went to the hospital to be with her for the morning visitation hours. And I'm sitting there with you, and it's Good Friday. And
Well, let's go back up
yeah,
because walking into the room, it was, I have, and thank God you were there to take pictures and videos of all the entire last week. But walking into the room, I remember I felt like I pushed you out of the way or something because I felt like I was like forcefully coming in because I saw her. And I remember dropping my backpack somewhere and like I felt like I pushed somebody out of the way because there were nurses in there and I walked right over and I said, "What is happening? Why are we back here? What is happening?" Because it was exactly what was going on Wednesday. She
yeah,
was bright red,
she had
her
a
fingers and
fistula.
toes. Oh yeah, she looked like a rubber balloon. Like her hands and feet looked like a rubber glove that had been blown up because she was so swollen.
Yeah.
And you took pictures of all of that and she gave me the look, the stern look. And I remember thinking, really? Is this what we're doing? Is this what we're doing? And I put my head so close to her and she opened her eyes and she looked at me and you snapped a bunch of pictures and I have the video and everything. And I felt the yes, Carmen, in my body. I don't know. I mean, obviously, you know how I feel. We talked the whole time she was in the hospital without words, but that was the yes. This is it. It was what we're doing. And
Well, the doctors came in. You were
that was
sitting
after I
there.
went
That was
face to face.
after.
Yep.
And
And I sat
so
in the chair
you
after
had
that
that
moment.
sense. You had a sense. And then there's this, of course, like there's this questioning and there's this can't be happening. Is this for
Yep.
real? And the
Yep.
doctors, this is the part that, whew, still gives me chills. I'm sitting there. I get a text from my husband and he says, "I hear you might not be coming home today." And I had all week, I knew, I said to myself, if anything happens or turns, I'm staying and canceling my flight. But I checked into my flight. So I'm like, I'm just rolling with it. And I get this text and I'm like, are we having a timeline jump here? Because I didn't say anything to him about that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I am checked into my flight as of this moment. And in walks the critical care team,
All of them.
all of them. And there was a doctor I hadn't seen before.
And
I
I
don't know if
hadn't
you had
either.
ever seen him before.
Mm-mm.
And he was there with the other two doctors that were managing her case. And I just had this is what's happening. I knew what
Yeah.
was happening. I could see it in his eyes. And he's looking at us both. And that's when he had the conversation with you, a very, very loving, compassionate, and firm conversation with you, Carmen, and asked you to revisit your mother's wishes, to revisit the DNR. And DNRs are you being her power of attorney and the one who had to make that ultimate call. That's not easy. It's not easy. And he explained the situation and he explained that the injuries that she had sustained and that she's continuing to sustain with the continual problems showing up, and a fistula is not a good disease to live with, would be hard for a 20-year-old to survive. And he said, we could keep your mom alive probably another few months. But as you're experiencing and you're witnessing, it is a constant roller coaster. She's in a lot of pain. And now we found something else.
Mm-hmm.
Is this what she would want?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you said to him, I can't answer that without I need my mother. You said, I need her to tell me what she wants. And he said, I do not often see my patients giving their loved ones that. You know her best. You know her better than anyone else. You are the one who can connect with her. And I was blown away that a doctor said, connect with your mom and see what she wants. You can go home and pray about it, but that's the only way you are going to find an answer to this. And that's so you walked right back over to her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he had said to me, he said, you already know what she wants.
Mm.
You know, she's already made the decision. You already know because she's made the decision for you. And Dr. Williams and Nunez were there. Those are the two surgeons I saw the most often. And I had looked at Williams and I had said, we were headed to rehab. I thought we were doing better. I thought we were doing so well. And she said, I thought we were too, but I have to lean on his experience. He's been in the TICU for 40 years. And he said, your mother has a 10% chance of ever being anything close to the woman that she was before.
Well, he
And
said
that-
she will never be the woman she was before, but 10% chance of surviving this, even if they keep doing, yes. He said, and that was something you had never really had anyone say to you before.
That was why it was so hard to believe.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, she's right here. She's awake.
Yeah.
She's communicating with me.
Yeah.
what? How is this possible? It is a literal, the shock of it is, I can't even, like, I can sit here right now and feel it in my body that,
Yeah.
like this cannot be true.
Yeah.
And I think that's when you videoed. I don't remember, but I do know you took pictures of the connections. And I do know that when I asked her, why are we back here? When I first walked in, that she just, it was almost a resignation that she was giving me with her eyes. Like, just, it was almost like she was saying, we just are,
Yeah. Well, I'm
you
done.
know,
I'm
yeah,
done. Let me
done.
go. Let me go. I stepped out and I called my dad and I was crying because my dad has been in that position with his own mother and the position of putting a feeding tube in and then deciding to take it out and all the things. And my father said, tell Carmen to be kind. The kindest thing to do for her mother is to let her go. Tell Carmen to be kind.
Mhm.
And not that you needed to hear that. You had made that decision. You are a kind and loving person. You do not do suffering. You don't
Oh,
do it with animals. And you were facing that with your mom and knowing and seeing that in her eyes, seeing that she was ready was all you needed. And
she was so solid in that
yeah,
decision.
yeah, I saw it. I was there in the room. I could see it in her eyes. It was fierce. I'm ready, honey. We're going. And yes, you can do this. And that was when I got brought right back to that conversation, the conversation her and I had soul to soul the night after her accident when she said, remind her she is ready for this process. And I'm like, okay, this is the process. I had also stepped outside of the room and canceled my flight
Yep.
knowing that oh, this is it. This is what's happening.
Yeah.
And yeah. And you were able to call your family and have family gather her. And you didn't choose to pull the life saving measures or have them removed until Saturday afternoon.
Yep, we made plans to make sure, I wanted to make sure that all of the grandchildren and my dad, and of course my sister, had the opportunity to show up. And so everybody did come. It was an evening of unbelievability, but also at the same time, we all got together that night. You and my dad went ahead to his house and prepared food, and I got a ride with Andy, and Maddie, my niece, was brilliant to say, can we please all gather tonight and just come together? And everybody except my sister and my other niece showed up. So it was a full house of laughter and celebration and memories and looking at pictures and talking and crying and all of the things. And really a preparation for the next day of spending the day together, I
Yeah,
believe.
it was holy ground. It was beautiful.
Truly.
It was
Yeah.
really, 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 really beautiful. And what you and your family did for her in preparing her in a bed of roses, literally.
Flowers, all of them. Yeah.
The grandchildren bringing flowers and covering her in flowers and just singing songs over her and praying and
Rubbing her feet and her
mm,
hands and yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was absolutely beautiful and there was a sense of peace in that room that was also palpable.
Hmm. Yep.
That it's just her it's her time. She's transitioning out of this world and it's an honor to stand witness to someone take their last breath and to do it with dignity. Your nephew's girlfriend put red lipstick on her. She had
I
painted
did.
her.
That was
You
me.
did the
She
red
brought the
lipstick.
lipstick.
Stacy, that's right. Stacy painted her toes the day before when we knew that she was going to go so she could leave with her bright red toes and wear her bright
Hmm.
red lipstick and
Yeah.
yeah, and share the last few minutes because
Yeah.
I think
So
that's pretty cool how your mom listened to you.
yeah, well, so we'll say that I chose to have just my son and I in the room
Mhm.
when we'd made the decision, and he had been busy all day, so we waited till he got there. I wanted to make sure everybody got, time with her alone, so everyone got private time with her to spend with her and speak to her, and then Brady and I, my son Brady and I, went in with the nurses and removed the life support and spent some time together, and then invited everyone to come back in together. And you said a beautiful prayer as we all held hands, and then just really listened to music and sang to her and had our moments. And the pictures speak 1,000 words. They speak 1,001 words. And when the time came, and again, I just have to say, I just have to make sure that I put in here that the staff at the hospital, I mean, 90% of them were amazing,
Mm.
amazing. I cannot say enough about the care that they gave to her
Mm.
after they got used to my personality.
Yes,
I
yes.
had one that used to say, I heard one of them telling one of the nurses, she's a little scary when you first meet her. She was new on staff. She said, but she's awesome. You're going to love her. And so I had developed quite a relationship with them as well. So the nurses that were there for that experience, Sarah, oh,
Oh, yeah. We couldn't
Oh,
have had better nurses
no.
the day and the evening.
Yeah, the day and
Um,
the evening of, for sure. So after everyone said their final goodbyes. You and my dad were the last to leave. Unfortunately, we had given up the Airbnb already, but you had gotten a hotel and my dad and you had left together, so you had a ride before a big storm was coming. And one of the most heartbreaking parts of all of this actually was when my dad said goodbye.
yep. Yeah.
And my mom had not opened her eyes in hours. She had been completely out. The death rattle had begun. And my dad went over to say goodbye. 63 years of being with my mother. She was 13 when they met, and she started to cry.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
my heart, breaks many times when I think of those moments because she was the love of his life. He would have taken her back in an instant if she would have allowed him after the divorce. And my heart also breaks, for my dad witnessing the loss of the love of his life, but also, we have to say this too, the grief of his other daughter, my mother's other daughter, my sister, not showing up in a place where it would have been beautiful to have our whole family of four together for a final time. So that's something else that people need to understand. It's not just the grief of the loss of the person you love. There's a lot of other griefs that comes in along with that, and a lot of other deaths of relationships and things also. So after that, and you and him left, it was just me and Andy there, my boyfriend, and it was so quiet too, which was interesting because it was late, right? I think it was like 9 o'clock or 8:30 when you all left, something like that.
I think no, we left close to 10, and she went,
Okay.
and she I think it was like 10:51 when she passed, right? Something.
10:56.
Yeah.
10:56, but it was interesting because the hospital had just all the hush had fallen over the
Yeah. It
hospital.
was dark.
It was dark and quiet. And after you and my dad left and they pulled the recliners in, one on each side of my mom's bed, got us blankets and all of that, all of a sudden it turned into an airport. Lights went on next to us, which had never been on before. The hall light came on, noise was beeping, beeping was happening. And I was like, oh, it's not going to happen. No one's going to sleep, right? And we were holding her hands. And I had sang to her a couple songs and I laid back into the recliner and Andy and I were just talking back and forth. And I said, Mama, if you don't let go pretty soon, we're not going to get any sleep around here. And the last breath left her body at the exact moment.
That's your mama's last act
The
of
last
love.
gift.
She tucked you in, Carmen.
She did. She was one to always say, get some rest, get some rest. That's something she said to me all my life. Get some rest. And I just remember thinking,
yeah,
she's gone. She's gone. And Andy said, she's gone. I saw it. I said,
yeah.
me too.
Yeah.
And I could not get that recliner out of the way fast enough to get over there and just start memorizing every part of her eyelashes, her hands, her fingers. And the whole time that I was doing that, I felt and experienced the brightest, warmest yellow light, but also yellow butterflies in the ceiling. I don't know, I can't explain it except it was like the soul left and the ceiling filled with warmth and light, and butterflies were the thing. It always has been my mom's thing. And I memorized everything I could. And I remember Andy coming over and saying, babe, I said, don't. Hand up. Don't. Leave me alone. I need this time. And never once did it enter my mind that I was walking away from my mom for the final time until we were actually walking through the hospital and we didn't see a single person. And that's when it hit me. That's the last time I'm going to see my mom alive. Like alive, but not alive, But the doctor came in and pronounced death the moment it happened. And I have a picture of that as well. And some people think, oh, I can't believe you got your phone out and you were taking pictures. But I promise you this, it has brought me eternal peace. I mean, having all of the pictures that you've shared, all of the things that we've recorded, the videos, all of it, to go back and look at and to see a video of her smiling and her kissy facing at me and I love yous and all of that. Priceless. Priceless. Yeah. So tragedy, but with a million little miracles, of course. We didn't touch on even a percentage of them.
Yeah,
Have
yeah.
experience you can't.
Yeah, and I think the bigger message is they're always there, right? The miracles are always, always there. And you do need to open yourself up to see them and
Yes.
receive them. It can be so easy to get stuck in the pain and the grief and the anger and the despair of trials. And when you open yourself up, and this is part of the dropping the resistance to what is and surrendering all of that, that's when they make themselves so very clear. That day that you made the decision that it was time, that your mother made the decision. You didn't make the decision, Carmen. You just affirmed
Honored
her
hers.
decision and honored hers. It was Good Friday. And, when you look at Good Friday in between Easter Sunday, that's the thresholds between death and resurrection. And it's the invitation to surrender. And it takes courage to step into that place and courage to let go. And that's the invitation that has been given to all of us. That's what Jesus showed us when, he went through his own physical death, but it was never about a physical death. It was the process of crucifixion into resurrection, the dying to the false self, the false identities, the things of this world that we cling to in order to be resurrected into that divine state. So you had your own in between that Good Friday, that silence, that into that resurrected state with your mom. And I mean, I know it's a journey, and grief is not something that you can rush. It's not something you can control. It's something that you have to allow. So a few months later, Carmen, what does grief look like when you now know more solidly than ever before that there is no death?
Yeah. It looks like it's hard to explain. You could say roller coaster, but it's not really a roller coaster because it's not like you hop on and you're like, oh, here we go, or anything like that. It comes out of nowhere. The only thing that I continue to find myself to keep repeating is I am a completely different person now. I will never be the same. Grief has changed me in ways that I never ever imagined. I still sit here in awe and shock of the way it all happened. As I told you, I had a conversation with the investigator of the case now because it has been changed to a wrongful death suit. And as I was talking to him, I felt the feeling, I can't believe this happened.
Right.
Right. So the grief is almost like it changes because I had to go through the whole process of cleaning out her house, going through all of her things, making decisions for the visitation, making decisions for her, what to do at the visitation, all of the legalities around everything. Thank God for my dad for being willing to step in and say, what do you need? What can I take from you? What can I help you with? He's been just brilliant. So grief is a thing that you can't predict. And it's also something that you shouldn't try to push away because it has all kinds of blessings and lessons in it.
Yeah.
I have become a master gardener somehow.
Yes, you have. I think your mom's helping you.
Absolutely.
She's like sprinkling some magic fairy dust over your gardens this summer.
No. Well, I got my green thumb from her, right? I did. But I'll also say this, it has made me more almost unforgiving of the things that don't matter. I don't have a lot of tolerance for nonsense. I know truly what is most important now more than I ever have. So even like something like this is a way to kind of explain it. This last week, I have dropped 2 glass mason jars on the floor of a tile kitchen. Okay. One with bone broth in it, one with dog food in it. Okay. I don't know why I dropped them, except that I'm, busy, dropped them on the floor and I went, well, shit. I guess I'm standing here in bare feet in my pajamas with the glass everywhere. And I just stood there and I went, 2 years ago, I would have been like, mother, fuck. I would have been losing my mind. I just stood there and went, I need some help. Second time I brought the jar, I'm like, wonder what's going on there. It really, really, truly takes the urgent and emergency out of your life unless it's an actual emergency. I mean, I've really learned to look at things and go, it's really not that important.
Yeah. I mean, look what
It doesn't really matter.
You just lived through.
It doesn't really matter, right? And I think one of the things too that I forgot to mention earlier was that when I went into this experience, and I've said this to you, and I've shared this many times before telling people, the 3 things that I was dealing with that were so hard for me, because we all have fear and we all have these things that we have hangups with, like, I don't want to deal with death, or I can't handle that, or suffering. For me, has always been something that I cannot tolerate. I cannot tolerate animals or children or people, elderly people, anybody that has, that needs help. I can't stand suffering. So I've always been the person that goes after and helps the animals or helps the people. I've been volunteering in hospice for the last year. I can't stand suffering. So whatever I can do to relieve it. Right. The other thing was I've never, ever lost anyone that's been like super close to me that has rip the rug out from underneath me. So I've never really looked at it or thought about it. No, 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 my mom and dad will never die. Never, never, never. Right. And then the other thing is uncertainty. I don't do well with the waiting place or limbo, the uncertainty, what's going to happen. Well, my mom handed me all of those lessons on a silver platter, and she goes, here is
Yeah.
suffering. Here's some uncertainty for you, and I'm going to leave you, by the way. Just want to make sure that we knock those
Uh-huh.
3 things out,
Uh-huh.
because if you're going to continue to show up for people in this world as big as you always have, you need these 3 tools in your toolbox to help others. And so I now understand in more ways than I ever wanted to all of the angles of loss, uncertainty, suffering, death, how to hold space for people, how to hold people accountable, how to handle conflict, how to show up in a way that is, to advocate for people. All of these things just got handed to me by my mom.
Yeah. Yeah. We talk a lot about how everything is for us if we choose to see it as such, right? And right there, you just shared the gifts that you're receiving in all of this.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they're gifts that are impacting you, Carmen, but they're also impacting everyone who knows you and will know you and will be in relationship with you, whether that's a client or a loved one, or anybody, really, truly, because those gifts are divine gifts that are given to you to ripple out God into the world.
Yeah. For
Mm.
sure. For sure.
Yeah.
And I do believe that, and I just want to say this too. I have learned in all of my years of helping people, I know that pain and suffering and struggle requires a witness. And it requires a witness in the way that the person needs to be witnessed, right? Whether it is witness my anger because I've been betrayed, witness my fear because I'm in financial ruin, whatever it might be, the things that I have gone through in my life, and I've gone through all of those things. This has been added to it. I now know more than anything that when someone is in grief, their grief needs a witness. They don't need to be fixed. They don't want it taken from them. They don't want anybody to say, well, if you do this, all they want is someone to witness them.
Yes.
And I have never had a better witness to my pain than you, truly.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
That, when Molly was walking the thin veil of the last 5 months of her life, and she invited me to do it with her, she said to me, "This is for you, Jen. This is for you because I have more to teach you. And it's for you when you walk this veil yourself, and it's for you to help others."
Yeah.
And that gift from her became so evident and clear to me when I was in Chattanooga with you and your mom. And of course, all the days that have followed.
Oh, and what you did for my dad. I can't even begin to tell you what you did. You filled a space. You filled the space of daughter from my dad in ways that I never could have imagined outside of myself. And you helped me carry the load.
Mm.
That should have been carried in other ways from
It's
other
a
people. You did.
family comes in all different forms,
It sure
and
does.
it's not necessarily blood. And these soulful relationships that we have, and the call to step into them and to serve. We're all brothers and sisters, right? Found in Christ. And that for me, it was just there was no question. There was no question that I was going to show up as a vessel. And that's really what I have felt like. And, you will be able to, you already are, and to continue to, and, the term that's so overused, but it's like play it forward. But your life has forever been changed, and this has forever changed you. And then you will be able to show up for others in a very changed way. And just know, there's an inner knowing inside of you. And I feel so, so blessed to have been there for you and with your mom as she was transitioning out of this world. When I got my alone time with her before the life support was removed, I thanked her. And I reminded her that I will continue to stand by you as your sister and your friend and love you. And I asked her to go find Molly and thank her. I said, please thank her because she enabled me to be here.
Yes.
And you and I were walking in a park the next morning and on Easter Sunday, and we saw 2 big red cardinals sitting in a tree right there. And I was like, oh, hi, ladies. Yeah, it's now you experience too, something that you just have to experience. Somebody can tell you. Like when you're standing in a place where you're about to lose someone you love. A former client of mine reached out to me yesterday because her best friend is dying of cancer. And she's just like, I don't know how to do this. And I should just share with her. There's no again, nobody can take it away from her. She has to experience it, but that relationship will just change form. It will be a soul to soul relationship. I had full confidence of that for you.
Gosh.
I knew that. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. But you can't really fully receive that until you experience it. And I know you know it because you and your mom have been having communication
Yeah.
as close as you were in human form. It's showing up in the soul to soul relationship. So, can you just share a tiny bit with our listeners, for anyone who's listening who maybe fears losing someone in their life?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, I was the one that feared it the most, and she was the loss I feared the most.
Yeah.
All of my life was
Yeah.
everything to me. I'll say this, my mom was the one who scheduled my first Reiki session in the 1995. My mom was the one who showed me how to use the pendulum to be able to talk with the people that you love, your angels, whoever, back in 1997. Like, my mom led the way for me to have the open mind and the open heart to allow God to come in any possible way that he could come in. So when all of this was going on, I mean, we made the connection with the next morning, the day after the accident. I made that connection. I remember going, okay, here we go, Mom. And I remember feeling, here we go, Carm. That's what she used to call me, Carm. But boy, let me tell you something. That woman has gotten louder. The literal moment that she passed and we got in the car and we're going out of the parking garage, which is a very lengthy exit, I was hearing chatter, just here we go, and bright lights and like all this yellow and all of this. She was dancing. I could see her. And I've shared before that I see things like a movie in my mind. It's a brilliant way to experience other things, right? She was dancing down a hallway, tossing yellow butterflies everywhere, just happy, snapping her gum, bright red lipstick, happy to be where she was. And it brought me so much peace leaving that hospital that night. But the next morning, it was like, what are we going to do now? And I was like, we're going to cry. And I was just trying to get into grief, right? And then she would just be talking to me. And I don't know how to explain where the voice comes from, except and I always go over here on the right side, the divine part of the mind. She's always here. So if I say something like, I can't do this anymore, like that, sometimes when I'm having a moment of sadness, she'll go,
Yeah.
well, I don't know what you want to do, but I'm right here. I can help you along. Like, it's a dialogue that is
Yeah.
so clear and undeniable.
Mm-hmm.
Undeniable that she's there. Undeniable. And I'll say this too. I mean, it shows up in physical form. I got a picture of a beautiful a white and black swallowtail from a friend. And she said, I know how much your mom loved butterflies. And this was on a flower this morning. And I looked at it, I'm like, oh, it's so gorgeous. And I look
Mm.
up in the sky and a white and black butterfly. There are no
Mm.
other butterflies have been in my yard at all. Came tickling around the edges while I'm
Mhm.
out there with my weed eater. And it's dancing around and then it just disappeared.
Mm.
So when we are available and open to the miracles, we will see them. They are
We
everywhere.
will. The
I can't tell you how
signs.
many feathers I've
Mhm.
picked up. I
Mhm.
will say, are you going to drop me a feather today, Mom? And I'll look down
Mm.
and there's one at my feet. Thank you.
Mhm.
These are
Mhm.
not things. These are not random
No, they're not random at all. They're not.
at all.
No, you just have to be open to the signs. And, the spirit world is like right here. it's,
Yes.
it's not a place in the sky, some big mansion on a cloud. It's right here. They've just
Right.
lost their earthly form.
Yeah. And I do believe that my mom chose this exact moment, this exact
Mm.
way,
Mhm.
this time. She
Mhm.
chose everything. I believe the soul
Yeah.
chooses how we come and how we go.
Our
And
days are
I have,
numbered.
yep,
Mhm.
I have evidence of that from the fact that we could not seem to get together for my birthday.
Yeah.
January 27th, we could not seem to make it happen because I'm an hour and a half away because we were all busy. You and I went out of town. And she shows up on March the 3rd, gives me my birthday gift. You should see the birthday card she wrote me, which was very, like, reading it now, it chills up your back. We went and had our favorite time at Hobby Lobby and Home Goods. We drank wine and had cheese and crackers that night and hung out with my boyfriend and played music. She had the best time. She was like a little girl. The next day, we got to go to lunch. 3 days later, the accident occurred.
Yep.
There
Yep.
are there were steps and signs. Even my niece and my both of my nieces received a beautiful message at like 6:30 in the morning from her. You're strong, you're beautiful, you can do anything you want with your life. Just out of the blue, just these random singular messages. Yeah. And then the
Yeah.
accident happened at 12:15 that day.
Mm. The soul knows.
The soul does know.
Yeah. Oh, Carmen, thank you so much for spending the time with us to share this.
Yes, of course. Yeah. We needed 6 hours to tell everything, but Lord, yeah.
We did it in an hour and 40. So
Ah,
thank you.
yeah.
Thank
And
you.
thanks
Thank
everybody
you.
for listening too, right? Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
This will be nice to share for people who keep asking what happened.
Well, it's sharing the story because this is not an ordinary story. And there are a lot of miracles throughout it. It glorifies God. I mean, everything, all of it. So it's something that needs to be shared. And your mama wants it to be shared. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Yeah.
Well, that was a beautiful unfolding of a story that started out really tragically. It's not an easy one to retell, and Carmen did it so beautifully. And my hope and prayer, as I know hers is as well, is that you saw and experienced some of the miracles in Dorene's story and the unfolding of her story in her life and in her death. This conversation has been sitting with me for a while now. And what I really keep coming back to when I reflect on it is that exchange that Carmen shared that happened on Good Friday, the one in her eyes and her mother's eyes, where there were no words. It was just two souls who had loved each other for Carmen's entire life, finding a way to say what language, our construct of language, just couldn't simply hold. And I think about that, and I think about how that's really what faith actually is. Faith is not doctrine. It's not certainty. It's just the willingness to trust when you know in the deepest part of yourself, even when every human system is telling you to keep fighting, when you just know what is the truth, what the Spirit is leading you to. Dorene went home on the eve of Easter Sunday, April 4th, 2026. She transitioned out of her earthly body and into the heavenly realm. And I don't think that even the timing of any of it was an accident. I know that to be true. Doreen hung on. She fought for 4 weeks and 1 day to teach us all something. She joined us in this podcast episode here today. I could feel her multiple times. I could feel her. I got chills. I could hear her laugh. I could feel her smile. She wanted her story to be told and shared, not because it's a sad one, but because there's so much love in it. And Doreen was a woman that walked this earth radiating love. She loved God. She made it her mission in life to make sure that other people felt love from her, felt God's love. And she gave it one hell of a fight that last month of her life to make sure that everyone that she cared for so deeply could feel her love when she couldn't speak it. So if this podcast episode has resonated with you in any way, shape, or form, we would love to hear from you. Please drop a comment wherever you're watching. We read all of them. You can drop me an email. And please share it with someone who might be walking through their own trial in life, whether that's a trial in losing someone, maybe they're walking their own thin veil themselves, maybe they're struggling with grief, maybe they're on the other side where Carmen is right now, where they're processing and integrating all the things that have happened and they're in their thick season of grief. We really appreciate you listening. Continue to lean in, continue to surrender so that you can step into that life, that abundant, beautiful life that God has for you, my friends. Thank you for joining me on the Daily Surrender. If today's episode spoke to you, I'd love to hear your reflections. Send me a message, share this with a friend, or leave a review. Remember, true healing and freedom come when we let go, surrender, and trust that God's way is so much better than our way. Until next time, my friends, keep surrendering, keep rising, and keep walking in peace.